cheers to another episode of the Wine Notes Podcast. I'm your guide, AJ Weinzettel, on this journey of stories showcasing the people behind the wonderful world of wine, where we dive into conversations ranging from terroir, viticulture, to favorite music, superpowers, and more. Please enjoy this episode of the Wine Notes Podcast. Vincent, thank you so much for taking the time today. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule. I know you've been traveling all around and all about, so I imagine you have quite a bit on your plate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, AJ. It's great to be here. And we're finally getting back to doing some sales travel in earnest after really a couple of years of doing very little. And so I was in Chicago and I've been down to California, and I'm soon this Sunday to head out for a 3-week trip to the East Coast, or 6 different states, different markets. I almost joke that I should have, spring tour T-shirts printed up because it seemed like a good idea to put it all together in one trip. And now I look at it and it's all in one trip, and it seems overwhelming. But life could be worse.
It could be way worse, and it's just glad to be able to get out and, do this stuff again, which is great.
Yeah. And really renew connections in the industry, distributor relationships that have survived kind of the COVID situation. But to truly see these people again for the first time in a couple of years, and go to the restaurants and shops that continue to sell the wines, and going to Chicago recently was quite, not to overplay it, but I wasn't sure. Would anyone remember me? Would they be like, oh yeah, we still like your wines? Or would we just be starting over and have lost all this momentum? And it was really gratifying that actually the trip went better than ever. It seemed like we were building on the past work that hadn't gone away, even though it had been a couple of years. And so it's actually very reassuring that we had this interruption, but it isn't for good. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, that is great. So if you don't mind, we'll kind of take a stab at the very, very beginning. It looked like, from what I've read and understood, you had your first epiphany, in the wine world, like when you were 4 and you were out with your parents, wine tasting. And then, many years later you went back to Coppola and you had that same, sense of smell with the wine and the barrels and everything.
I realized I'd been there before, and I was in my early 20s and thought we must have come to what was Inglenook, and at that time was Coppola. Maybe they called Inglenook again, but whatever the case, in fact, that we had been there, and we had turned out had gone to Christian Brothers as well. The one time I ever tagged along with a family going to wine tasting, and a little kid, it meant a lot of time in the car. It wasn't exciting to me, but I remember how it smelled, and that got into me. And I remember coming back to wineries in my 20s and being like, wait, that's familiar. That's in there deeper than I guess. So yeah, my wine epiphany was truly when I was, I think, 5 years old. So we'll call it 5. I didn't taste on that trip, but the aroma hooked me.
Well, that's the important part, is the aroma and the scent.
That's
and
right.
Everything else. It's all of that. Oh,
yeah. The emotion it provokes, the memories, all those things that it was great those years later to have that sort of formalization of like, wait a minute, I've been a wine lover for years. I just never knew it.
Yeah. So were your parents big into wine or anything at that point, or like how?
Yes and no. They definitely enjoyed wine and drank some nice wines on occasion, but for the most part, I'm the youngest of 7. My parents were both born and raised in the Depression. So while we had wine, they lived very economically. We had a lot of coupons and blue chip stamps, not fancy Bordeaux. Though once in a blue moon, a nice bottle would come through, and I remember my parents, my dad especially, be like, "Oh, Zenith de Pop, your grandfather likes this," or something. And I recreated this, I understand now later, but for the most part, it was table wines, wines with dinner. And so I always grew up around wine, but it was, again, one of those things that it might have smelled okay, like ground coffee smelled good, but coffee was horrible, right, as a little kid, and wine
Right.
might have smelled okay, but the taste was horrible. But later, when I truly did have my own epiphany, yeah, that sort of baseline of a family that was wine interested, if not, with a lot of cash to throw around at fancy wines. And I think the ethic of my family was very much like wine is it's a great thing, but we weren't going to spend too much because that seemed kind of frivolous. So there was very much a kind of a good table wine at home.
Right. No, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's,
100%,
because,
yeah.
Yeah. And to have those special wines, I mean, it just makes it the experience even more cherish. You can cherish that moment so much more.
That's exactly right. I really feel like my wine basis came from wine being an everyday or a kind of a not special thing in the sense of it being a food. But then there could be very special wines in the world of more special wine, of more handmade wine, kind of opened itself to me. And my family as well. Those who are interested in wine certainly are intrigued by my journey. And though sometimes they'll say, "Oh, don't waste the good stuff on me." I can't tell what's good, and I'm like, "Come on, anybody can tell." Like, one thing I like about wine is it can hit you as much as like I'm not a clothes horse. I don't wear fashionable clothing, though maybe I should. I don't know. But I know good fabric when I feel it. You don't need to be versed in the stuff to know, like, that's the good stuff. I kind of think of wine the same way. You can taste a wine and be like, whoa, wait a minute. That's not the normal stuff. And I like that about wine. It is mysterious and all these things, but it's a common beverage. And at the same time, the specialness can sometimes slap you upside the head without you having to know much. You're just like, wait a minute, what is this?
Exactly.
And I guess good art of any kind is that way, music and whatnot. Yeah.
Right. I couldn't agree more. So when you went back, in your 20s or whatnot, you're like, wow, I was here again, and just kind of remembering. But did you know, like, your career path was at academia at that point, or?
Actually, I'd been an English major and loved it so much I went to grad school for literature, and I honestly just felt like I hadn't read enough. I couldn't believe they'd given me a degree and I hadn't read tons of stuff. So I kind of went further, got a master's, and I really wanted to be, and I worked for many years in publishing, and I worked for Simon & Schuster in the Bay Area, so sort of an imprint of Simon & Schuster, but figured perhaps I'd work at a university press or some kind of academia-connected job. As it turned out, I ended up being a faculty member. At two different universities in Oregon, and running education programs where I was not the teacher usually, but I would hire teachers and otherwise, like I did in publishing, where we were working with the authors to try and figure out what we would publish, working with teachers to figure out what our classes would include, what the programs would include. And so I always have taken kind of an editor's approach to this kind of work. My wine interest was very much outside all that. And I always like to say, if I ride bicycles, I don't need to build them. And if I like bikes or if I like wine, I never thought, I need to make it. But I did fall in unexpectedly with some people making wine, and they were like, come help. And I thought, wow, I'm so lucky. And I like to joke that we'll take anyone at harvest time if you're willing to help. If you have a pulse, you're in. I had a pulse and I showed up and I kept showing up, and I, for whatever reason, I had an aptitude for it, and it really took. So wine is the unusual interest I've had where I've really gotten in and now make it. I've always been more I could surf, but I don't, make surfboards or something. But wine, surprising to me, I really just fell into the making of it and found I'd love it.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine. And so you actually started making wine in 2009, or is that like when you were doing it full time?
Yeah, that's when I first worked in a winery, really a volunteer job. In 1999, I was living in California, And in the next year, as part of the plan, and part for wine, though it wasn't the first reason, I moved to Oregon with my family, truly to raise a family in Oregon. The Bay Area where we lived was great, but we were just really wanted to be in Oregon. I also secretly thought, there's a wine dream, and I think it's an Oregon wine dream for me. I think that there's an excitement here. There's something about this Willamette Valley that I found to be true, but that I suspected was where I wanted to be to make wine. But I had fallen in with someone who had met a home winemaker and then had already launched a commercial winery and had become successful very early on and has gone on to great success, which is fantastic. But their model was, if you can make good wine, make commercial amounts of it, more than you need. It's hard to make 5 gallons of good wine. It's like making a tiny cake, you don't have enough proportion, or a tiny loaf of bread. It's almost a trick, But so to make barrels of wine, work with commercial vineyards, do your best to meet growers who will sell to you, do nothing to cause them trouble, pay them, make sure you're a good customer. And you'd be surprised. You might be able to work with really good fruit and make wines that probably will be better for working with good fruit. And that you want to kind of do that, perhaps as you're apprenticing and continuing your learning in wineries. And I essentially followed that loose plan for the next decade. So from the year 2000 to launching my own production in 2009, I worked in wineries at harvest time, flexing in my day job, working bottling days, filtering days. Any day I could kind of help out the cellar and make it work with the day job. I was making home wine from serious vineyards, including Zenith vineyard that I still work with.
Right.
And so I was able to make home wines that I was proud of, and I would still serve them as part of my collection, part of my library. And so I felt really good about that here we're making wine, it's good wine, it's not some hope that it'll be good someday. And by 2009, I really felt confident that I could make wine in a commercial facility that therefore was legal to be sold, and that we're taking enough chances, but I knew I could make good wine. And so in 2009, I started with just 225 cases, 9 barrels of Pinot Noir. And now I make about 2,200 cases. And in 2015, I was able to leave the academic and publishing work full-time and go into wine, I should say, full-time. I left my other careers at that point and have not looked back. And at this point, I suspect I'm not very employable outside of what I do in wine, so it better keep working.
I think you're totally fine. I mean, it's I think you're one of those kind of unknown secrets, like, if kind of
right.
producers. And no, you're welcome. It's when I first heard about you, I was like, how in the heck did I not know? But, once you kind of get into the inner circle and the group, the wines that you create are outstanding and great, and you're so approachable, and, everything you do is top notch.
I appreciate
so,
that.
I mean, if you could give yourself any advice and like go back to 2009, is there anything that you would tell your younger self?
That's a great question. I can't. The winemaking adventure has been the most unusual thing for me because I never felt like I was that great at stuff, and I'm not that great at wine. But I clearly is working enough that fooled enough people. Ha ha ha. That,
no,
so
it's
I would say to my younger self, though. Apparently, I was willing to give it a shot, but I would tell that 2009 me, definitely do it. Do not let people tell you this is crazy. The smart thing I think I did was I was able to start it as a side thing, and the worst thing that would have happened if I had to wind it down was just the sort of the shame or whatever. I would have lost some money, but I hadn't mortgaged the farm or the house.
Right.
I was, and so I would say that was a smart thing to do. To be all in something, you don't have to literally be all in, because you could really lose everything, and you don't need to. So just kind of work at it, ratchet it up, and really understand that the long-term goal, if I always tell people this, if your long-term goal is to be in wine, then start now. But at the same time, it doesn't all have to be right now, because if you all of a sudden were a full-time winemaker, you have a winery, and like 5 years from now, you might be like, well, I'm done with that. I'm tired of it. I don't know, but in a way, if you're really into something, you're going to be, or you should be into it 10, 20 years from now. So don't worry. It doesn't all have to happen right now. And in a way, it takes pressure off this vintage being everything, or if this wine isn't the best wine ever, I'll never live another day. Like, no, there will be another vintage. In some ways, the experience has really, there's a ton of romance in wine. I hate it when people say, don't get caught up in the romance. Like, why not? I mean, there are other ways to make a living. This is a pretty good one. Tastes good. The view is usually pretty nice. We're out vineyards. It could be worse, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a very serious business. And the truth is that the next harvest, the next growing season will come before you know it. And so when we get all wrapped up in what this wine needs to be, or what, we just put a lot on any one thing in our work. We have to remember there will be more years, there will be more vintages, almost to the point where it's unrelenting. And here comes another vintage, like another baby.
Right.
And you're like, wait, do we need another vintage? Have we sold enough wine? Do we have, do we have food for the new baby? It's almost a similar feeling. Like you want to be a responsible producer by not making too much. It's also good business, right. but you almost feel emotionally like, wait, where am I going to put this all? And I'm not taking care of everything right if it's too much. So I would just remind that early person, you're in it for the long haul. Stay true to what you're doing. Be about something. Try not to make wine for everyone, because you won't have enough for them anyway. So you might as well focus on what you're trying to do and try and do it well, and look for the people who'd be interested. And once in a while, that'll be somebody who's like, yeah, I'm not interested. And you have to be like, okay, that's fine. And it's not a personal affront. But this is true of any, if you're a graphic designer or whatever, you're looking for the people it works with. It doesn't have to be everyone. So,
right. No,
it's fun to think back.
It is fun. It is fun to think back and look upon, what you've accomplished and, where you've gone. I think, kind of early on, your grassroots marketing was a bunch of, online kind of bulletin board systems, or not bulletin board system, but like message boards and whatnot. And
I had a blog, actually. One of my old directors at Portland State University, he said, he was sort of challenging me one time in his British way. He was this great guy, Victor Walsh, who was a fantastic mentor. But he essentially said, if you're all about this wine stuff and, you ought to be writing about it, you should start a blog. And it was the best idea. This was literally like 2004, so I felt pretty early in sharing what I was essentially learning. I called it élevage, which in wine is the education of wine, the sort of raising of the wine from the winemaking stage to the bottling, mostly barrel aging. But here I was in education, and I joked that this was, how I was getting schooled by wine and by winemaking, and I just wanted to share that. And through writing my blog posts for years, it was a great outlet when I had such an interest in being in wine and I wasn't in it. So I felt like, well, here's something I can be doing to make it happen now. It's interesting. I have more to blog about than ever, but no time, and just and I don't have that outlet. Like, I need to read a book, something else that's an outlet away from wine now. So it's interesting there. The blogging has gone away, but it was really important for me to basically share what I was doing, and to have people who were looking for what I ended up doing. They would find me. They weren't looking for Vincent Fritzsche, winemaker in Oregon. They were like natural wines, or, nothing added, or whatever they might be searching in terms of Pinot Noir. Then they might find me. And I found the power of the internet was people finding my content and not looking for me. And then they'd be like, wow, this is interesting. And I learned very early on, I put a thing on my site saying, hey, if you want to get on my list, and I'll be in touch with you over time about wines I make, etc., subscribe to my list, get on my list. And it's been the business plan ever since. Basically, make an invitation to anybody who's interested to join my list. And then once they're on my list, I can write to them, and, sure, it's marketing, but basically once you get in orbit, I figure if you're interested in wine, I'll make you offers on wines. And if you're interested, come taste. I won't charge you. And if you want to buy. And it's turned out to be a pretty good organic business model. Invite people to be a part of what you're doing, and then give them opportunities to purchase, and never force them to do anything. And they seem to like that. And so from 2009 to today, direct sales have always been a key part of my business. But certainly I distribute a lot. As I started by saying, I have a whole bunch of distributors around the country and in Canada and the UK. So part of the fun and part of the work is to go visit and work with them and really, make those connections too. So both sides of the business are really interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. Oh, I could be totally off on this kind of next segment, but it looked like about 5 years ago in 2017, you were working on some code to, it was like a Google spreadsheet that you're trying to email attach as a PDF. Do you recall that at all?
I don't. What was it?
You don't? Okay.
No,
well, maybe there was somebody else, maybe there was somebody else out there that was portraying you, and it was like, wow, you were doing actual code in 2017, and like that doesn't seem like you. So I was really curious.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not sure about that, though it might have been. I've dabbled around in these kinds of things, but it's funny, actually, in recent years, I was trying to redo a website, and I've come to the understanding, both in the mix of things I have to do and I want to do, of course, my skills in terms of code and really the current generation of websites and things like that is like out of my league. It's sort of like leveling up. I think I got to high school. I used to play Little League baseball, and I was pretty good. And I got to high school, and I went to this like fancy high school where sports was a big deal. And I went out to try out for the team, and I had like jeans on and a t-shirt, and there were kids with like their own uniforms. Like this was like private, semi-pro children. Like I'm out. My time is done. I feel that way with any web or trying to update code on my site. I'm like, okay, I've reached my limit. We're done. This is jump off. So I'm not sure if that was part of it, but I at this point definitely not a coder.
Yeah, no, and I can totally understand that. But so I got that. I found that off of Stack Overflow, and whoever was writing the answer was like, hey, once I slept on it, I was able to figure out what was going on. And so the actual question that I was going to ask was, has there been anything in winemaking where like you're stumped and like you just a good night's sleep and you wake up in the next morning and you're like, oh yeah, I need to do this?
Yeah, yes and no. In that sometimes I'm concerned that I might come off as a little too nonchalant, or like if I were hearing me, I would be really annoyed. So I don't know how quite to express this, but I've really, the most surprising thing and most profound thing about winemaking is that I really do very little. And I have learned that the more I don't do, the better it is. And so really the point of fact answer is I may have gone to bed thinking I've got a problem with a ferment, or I've got a barrel that's highly reduced and smells like, like your foot in a plastic shoe. And you're like, it just smells, we need to air that out or do something to make it better than that. And honestly, the problems that I will almost invariably resolve themselves. They're sort of transitory things. That might equate it to a cake is baking in the oven and you're looking at it through the window and you think, oh no, something's not right. I would almost just say time out. Pretty much nothing you're going to do by opening the oven, by moving the baking cakes that are still mostly liquid, like nothing is going to help right now. In fact, you're just going to ruin it. In fact,
you're just going to make it worse.
Don't open the oven. Don't touch the cakes. Just let them be. And not that means the cake's going to be great, but wine I've really found to be that for the most part, what I've had to do is step away, retain a kind of an emotional clarity, and usually almost invariably not do what you think you're supposed to do. Like something's wrong, react. And I like to equate it to raising children. I'm not a careless parent. The kids don't play in the streets, but they will play in the front lawn. And some people are like, oh no, that'd be too dangerous. Like, no, I don't think that's crazy. And so what we're trying to do with the wines is guide them to be what they are going to be to the best of their ability. But a lot of the intervention might end up hampering or stymieing their development and be more about our fears of what could possibly go wrong, or oh, I want to go to law school now. Little Billy's going to go in my place. Kind of. Sometimes we as winemakers sort of want to fix our old wrongs by the new wine. And I've learned that stepping away, taking a deep breath, will often allay that need to react. And so much of my winemaking is about allowing the wine to be. And I'm honestly, I'm surprised. The early me did hear from people, oh, you're kind of a dilettante. You'll learn. Like, you can't approach it that way, or you can maybe if you're a home winemaker, but you can't if you're a commercial winemaker with a real business. I've only learned that the bigger I go into this, the easier it is to let go, because, well, one, there's a ton of ferments you do. Even a small winery has a ton of different lots that they're making each year. And so any one of them could possibly screw up and you won't be out. But the other side is that I've maybe once or a couple times I've basically had to throw out wine. But I tell you, the batting average for success is way better than I would have expected. And I don't know any winemaker who couldn't look back on their career and say, oh, yeah, the 2012 Gamay, like, hey, yeah, that was don't talk about that. So everybody's got one or two. And so of course. I really found it to be true that the beauty of wine is it is a more forgiving medium. It's not going to have bacterial growth that hurts people. It's either going to be good or not. And for the most part, I found I want to do less. And I've only learned that more and more over the years, not like less. It's not like I started idealistically and changed. I'm shocked at how true it is. Right. And onward we go.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about parenting and, your son, Martin. So if I understand correctly, he's going to college in Hawaii.
Yes, he is a freshman, or just finished. I guess we call him a summer grader now. His second year. And I have a daughter who just graduated. So, yeah, college days right now.
That is awesome. Oh, yeah. Did Martin learn how to surf from you, or did he take that? Does he even have an interest in surfing? Or
he totally does. Yeah, he totally does. And he did. Whether he learned from me, I literally one time was yelling at him in the surf, like, paddle harder. Because it made sense to me as a parent, and I'm being a self-deprecating winemaker at the same time. I basically was like yelling at the grapes, like, ferments, and it's like, this isn't how. They're not going to learn from me. So I may have turned him off to surfing at that point. But though it is true, if you want to get into a wave, really get into it. But the point being, he has learned, probably in spite of me, to answer your question. And a lot of surfing, I think of with a lot of things, but surfing especially, you just need to get out there and do it. Almost better if nobody's watching, especially Dad. And so, Martin and I definitely like to surf when we're together at a place where we can go surfing. But part of my advice to him with college was, treat the ocean like an independent study. Go to all your classes, but don't skip surf class. And so get in that ocean a few times a week. I like to say when you're at sea level, and you are invariably at the ocean. There was one time I was in the Puget Sound, and you could see Mount Rainier. And I was literally on the shores of the Anderson Island in the Puget Sound, and I thought it's not often you can be at sea level and see the whole of a mountain. Like, you usually don't see the whole of the mountain. So literally, but also, I'm an English major. I like metaphor, just these sort of images. And I just thought, well, man, sea level gives you a chance to see the whole of something. If you're at sea level, you might have a better chance of good clarity, good perspectives, kind of a good baseline kind of place. And I was like, get to sea level, get in that ocean, you will get schooled by it. And so he's really taken that to heart and has been surfing quite a bunch. And so we went out recently, and it was fun because I was out further, and he caught a wave and then was inside of me, but I could see him standing from behind the wave. And it was just so cool seeing him just surf across the wave and just be like, that's my guy. I feel like a proud dad for sure.
Yeah, no, I have a 24-year-old stepson. You know, he's just doing some amazing stuff in his life. And,
cool.
You know, your heart does nothing but just gleam with joy when you see that sort of stuff, right?
Absolutely. And it's all the cliches I found with parenting are true, or being an uncle or an aunt or whatever relationship any of us might have with younger people if they aren't, quote, our own. But that they, you know, they grow and change. They grow like weeds. The things that they'll say, oh gosh, this 5-year-old's got the wisdom of the world already. They really can. Or, you know, your 24-year-old stepson, and you just see the things they do as this adult in the world. And it's all the cliches are true. It's amazing. It's incredible. And I never lacked for purpose, but definitely when the kids came along, it was like, well, if I ever thought I lacked for purpose, like now I know I definitely have purpose.
Yeah.
And that will never end, which is great, even as they have their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it seemed like recently you just had another, you know, kind of bonding moment of team flip-flop out in Napa.
That's exactly right. So yeah, Martin and I were driving his sister's car back from her college graduation. She's flown off to Europe for some fun, and we had a little inside joke at the winery with actually the winery crew, because I have a facility that I lease with a friend. He's now my landlord, which is great. And then I have a few people who make wine under me or under my bond and license, and so. But one was particularly interested in wearing flip-flops, so we joked that we were team flip-flop. And so anytime I catch myself wearing flip-flops in the wine setting, which usually in the vineyard you don't want to be in flip-flops, and certainly not in the winery. So it's a tongue-in-cheek that team flip-flop usually means we should be putting on our socks and boots. But it also, on a sunny day in Napa when we're just checking to see flowering, it was fun.
Yeah.
But that's how we do it. I mean, it's, you know, you got to have some fun.
Yeah, you definitely do, and it's bonding, and it's bringing memories and all of that, right? That's something that you'll never forget, and he'll never forget either.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And be it that, or yesterday we had a group from California, customers, new customers to me, but connected to me by people, and so people I've never met, but they come to the winery, we taste. We talk, they learn about the wines, they have questions, they love Oregon. This group comes every year apparently, and you just have these bonding moments, whether they're, you know, my son and me in the vineyard, or it's brand new customers from out of state, or somebody I've known my whole life. It just, you, in the context of our winery, the wine production, obviously tasting, enjoying the wines, that's how we do it. And I think good businesses run that way, where they're the same way to their customers as they are inside to each other. So there's not like a difference, you know, front of house, back of house, or front, you know, out in the public, or, you know, back in the stock shelves. And it's the most natural way kind of to live and work. And so we try and exude that without even trying, but I think we exude that, where it's always serious work, but we're always, we better be having some fun and making it, or allowing for it to be memorable. Those kinds of connections are what it's all about. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if not, no pressure, Martin, but, you know, what if 10 years from now he's like, you know, Dad, I always wanted to join you in this business. And I'd say, like, well, I wonder why. Like, well, because you never push. We'd have fun when we do it. Like, oh, well, I wasn't trying to do that, but maybe that's also part of it. So it's just, my dad always had, his advice was, always, you know, leave doors open. Don't cut things off. It's never going to be this, or it has to be that. He was always like, give yourself options. And in a way, we work that way. So there's always the option of somebody saying, this is great, I want more. And I'd like to think that's how we make the wine. And I'd like to think the wine hopefully exudes that too. So.
Yeah, no, it's, again, you know, just the I've tasted with you a couple times, and on the Zoom, and I remember just some random things. When you joined the Zoom, it was during lockdown and everything. And
oh yeah,
everybody was like, "Oh wow, you let your hair grow out and everything." And then I saw some earlier pictures of you. I'm like, "No, that's not Vincent. That's not the Vincent that I know."
I'll be back. Yeah, it wasn't a COVID hairstyle. It was already, the joke was a few years ago. I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to get my hair cut," and my wife and the kids, probably closer to high school age at that time, they were like, "What? It's just getting good." And of course, mortally wounded. Like, "What do you mean? My hair looks terrible." But they were like, "Oh no, you look better with longer hair. You should let it grow." And so I let it grow. And then COVID happened, and I think my wife was like, "Uh-oh." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not getting it cut now." And,
no.
So at this point, I figure, I had long hair when I was younger, so this is definitely a midlife crisis. But at some point it will come off. I literally had long hair until I got married, and I remember thinking, this might be the one time we hire a photographer. My oldest brother, he's a great guy, rock rib conservative, unlike me. But when he was a teenager, he had long hair, and his long hair photos have been up at my parents' house since then. And I'm sure he's like, I could have gotten a haircut.
Right.
So I always like, if I'm going to hire a photographer, it's going to be with the hair kind of more normal as I normally would have it. Well, these days I work for myself. We'll see. But one of these days I'm going to get tired of it. We'll cut it off, and that'll probably be the end of long hair. So I'll be back.
Oh, no. That would be so sad.
Well, yeah, it's fun. It is a funny thing. It's weird because actually it says, my physical appearance rarely calls attention to me. People aren't like, I'm not wearing crazy clothes or trying to call attention. But when you have long hair, especially as a guy is in his 50s, people just think, "Oh, hey, look at you. Oh, hey, mountain man, hippie," or whatever. So it is interesting that it draws attention in a way that I don't usually engender. But it's fun.
It is fun. And I was out at Dion Vineyards earlier this year.
Oh, great.
And Beth was talking to me. He's like, "Do you know Vincent?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Vincent." And she was like, "Yeah, one day, we saw, some random hippie out there in the middle of the vineyard just walking, and they were like, 'Who is that?' And then they're like, 'Oh, wait, that's Vincent.'"
Yeah, right. I was literally there yesterday talking to Beth. I get out of my car, and I almost still feel like I have to say, "Hey, it's me." Like, people don't necessarily, but now they recognize me with longer hair, so it's fun.
Right.
No, I worked with Dion for years. What a great old site, and I work with Chardonnay and Pinot Gris there, and definitely out looking. We had the frost issue, or I guess now it's April, 2 months ago,
right?
And definitely some frost loss at Dion, but not as bad as I feared at all. And in fact, I saw Beth, and she's like, "Oh, the frost," and I'm like, "Heck, I was thinking it was a total loss, and this is not that at all." So we should be looking pretty good, but there's definitely 20-30% loss. We're figuring. Hard to know until the fruit sets next month. But once we get there, we'll have a better idea. But one thing after another lately with Mother Nature, I'll tell you, the frost this year is a tough one.
It has been interesting to see the frost. I've seen some vineyards where sections of the vineyard are totally fine, while other sections you can just see there was like zero growth, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. And even now you'll see it's growing, but it's all second shoots, and they just don't produce the same. But they'll grow for next year because it's important we have the growth. But it was alarming how widespread it was. It's very unusual for us, and while it's not something I would expect every year, I certainly don't want to say, "Oh, it probably won't happen for another 40 years. Who knows? One of these things could happen twice in 3 years and then not for 40 years. So who knows? But quite an unusual one, and I hope the last we see of that. But of course, fire, smoke. There's all kinds of maladies that can happen. We just seem to be getting them all lately.
And
so it's not. You got to stay on your toes.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So you decided to kind of dive into Napa a little bit and start a project out there.
So it's, and it goes back. I appreciate you bringing up the earliest. My earliest wine epiphany was tagging along with my parents to Napa wineries. I'm from California. I'm proud of that, and not really. It sounds funny to say that now, but there was a time when it seemed like Californians Californians. But I it's obviously a fantastic state with such a rich history of wine. For all these years, though, I'm the Oregon guy. I'll go back to my native Southern California, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's the Oregon guy," and I'm like, "No, I grew up near Santa Monica. Like, I'm from around here." But I'm the Oregon guy, and I love that because I literally represent this place, the Willamette Valley, the volcanic soils, the marine sedimentary soils, this vineyard, that hillside, and then the fruit that we grow and how we make the wine, and so it's all embodied in this Oregon experience. And I'm so proud of that, and that is not changing. However, I've always felt, and my family's heard about this, like a parallel life that it's as if there's a parallel life for me where I never left California, perhaps even never left coastal California where I grew up surfing, and just kind of such a different life. And yet it's, I imagine I'd be a grown-up like I am. I would have a job like I've had, but I might have gone surfing more after or before work, unlike living in the valley here where I just don't do that.
Right.
And so I've always wondered, like, what if a parallel life, I could write this, fake autobiography of my life if I had never left, the California coast. Well, that person might have actually left the California coast and ended up making wine in Napa. And so I kind of had this inspiration a few years ago. During the COVID lockdown, I ended up tasting some Napa wines from Steve Mathiasen of Mathiasen Wines. Definitely a well-known name among the kind of cognoscenti of Napa wines these days, but certainly not at the level of Robert Mondavi or some common household name. But Steve Mathiasen has been growing and makes just fantastic wines, not just of Cabernet Sauvignon, but certainly Cabernet and Merlot-based wines. And I just really had kind of a wine newcomer's epiphany. We had a bottle of wine with dinner of Cabernet, and it reminded me of meeting somebody, like the grandchild of somebody who you'd known. I guess we have to be an older person to have this example, but essentially I felt like tasting Mathiasen's Cabernets, and then a few others from, say, Kathy Corison, among others. I felt like I was tasting 100% contemporary modern wines. These are not like karaoke or trying to be a Renaissance fair of a wine, like a throwback. But they had the same jawline of great grandmother, such and such in the family lineage. And so I could tell in these modern wines the lineage of the past that I'm really interested in, and interested in maybe working in that heritage and making wines that speak of a Napa history that I know, that I was inspired by. And rather than trying to sort of undo history and go back to that, or say, oh, all this terrible wine in Napa these days, because it's been fashionable to say, oh, Napa's terrible, it's this high priced and it's all ego. And there's fantastic wines being made there, but there are a lot of wines that I would describe as kind of like overcooking the steak a little. Like, I wish it's all good, but if they could just pull it off the grill a few minutes earlier and prep it, in this case, the farming. So if you're farming to pick a little earlier, you're picking a little earlier to preserve and get a little more of an al dente or kind of a rare quality in the grapes rather than that sort of well-done, heavy kind of quality. If you're farming with that intention and then picking that intention, then you can maybe perhaps make wines that speak more of the tradition. I just got really fired up in the past couple of years about saying, I really want to explore that thread, and that has nothing to change the Oregon work I do, and it's certainly not abandoning Oregon for California or vice versa. But what we're going to do is work with fruit from Napa, bring it to the Oregon winery, and make the wine here, starting this year, 2022. And while I'm only working with one vineyard now, ideally we'll work with a few. I think a classic Napa Cabernet is a blended wine, and it's such an interesting connection to my Oregon winery and my Oregon life, and it's really focused on place, this vineyard, that vineyard, the soil type, that aspect. And Cabernet certainly responds to those things as well. But my vision for the Cabernet project, the Napa project, is to make a singular Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon from a few sites that would be reflective more of the valley's terroir rather than one specific location or one specific, kind of clone of Cabernet or whatever it may be. And so it's truly a yin-yang kind of connection or deviation from that single vineyard focus of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that I do here in Oregon to a little bit more of a Napa broader kind of focused Cabernet. So we'll see what we get. It's to me incredibly exciting, and also kind of culmination of even that 5-year-old kid who just got a whiff of the barrel cellar and thought, I want more of that. Well, it took almost 50 years, but we're going to get more, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, no, that is really exciting that you'll get fruit this year, and so 2024, 2025, we'll actually get to see that.
That's right. Yeah. So with my Oregon wines, everything is barrel aged for a year to about a year and a half, depending on the wine, depending on sort of the selection. I like to say that the wines that my Pinot Noirs, for example, that age in barrel for a year and a half, they do so because they kind of deserve it. They need it. It's sort of like something that will benefit from that extra time in barrel. Well, when I'm making Cabernet, it's just a grape with more tannin, more color, more essentially to work out in the élevage in that barrel time. And so it's no accident that the tradition is, a year and a half to 2 years in barrel or even more, depending on, exactly how you do it. So making the Cabernet, it's certainly not something that will be ready by next spring. So, no, you're right. Yeah. We'll make it this year. I would expect to barrel age it at least a year and a half to a couple years, bottle it. By then we'll have made 23, maybe even be making 2024 wine. And so before we even have anything to show the public, we'll have a few vintages together. And again, it's really exciting for admittedly what is now still an idea. I mean, it's happening, but we still brought the fruit in. It was great though to be in the vines last week in Napa and see actually the fruit set and really see these tiny pea berries on the vine, but recognize like this is it. This is, like picture the baby from the ultrasound. You're like, oh my goodness.
Yes, it's that no, and that yeah, it's so. Yeah, no, it's exciting when you get to, dive into new projects and explore and kind of push yourself outside, what you've been doing for so long.
That's right.
Yeah. And I'll say I'm very much looking forward to, your expression of a cab and to see where it comes about. I have a couple bottles of Tony Soder's last cab that he made, which was an 07. Yeah. And just, those are precious little memories, and to hold on to those. And I'll just say I can't wait.
Mentioning Tony is a great one because there's these connections in the past of California winemakers or people who've made wine in California who've come, in that case, back to Oregon, but who've made Cabernet in Napa and Cabernet-based wines, which is more broadly speaking with Tony's experience, but then also to be making Oregon Pinot Noir and to be so revered for Oregon Pinot Noir. I'm certainly going the opposite direction. The old story of the pioneers here in the 60s and 70s was it was mostly Californians who come here against better advice. Oh, go to Oregon, you can't get fruit ripe. Well, that turned to be wrong. But you have the story of Oregon wine is often these Californians who came here, and here I am, California, who came here years later. But I do think it is sort of novel and maybe turnabout being fair play, as the British like to say, to have the Oregon producer now go to California. It usually would seem to go the other way. And I'm like, no, we're going to, Mercury in retrograde or something where we're going to Napa. And of all the places, I'll tell you, this wasn't a reason for the inspiration, but it was more when I was thinking about how crazy is this idea to do a Napa project. I got kind of some ballast or boost from thinking, honestly, you'll hear a lot of newer and certainly younger winemakers in California that say, oh, I'm making, Chasselas from the Sierra foothills or just some less common grape from a less, famous growing region. And the idea being like, because Napa, it's so expensive and it's a Cabernet dominant. Like, if we're going to do fun stuff, we can't do it there. And I was like, wait a minute, we're gonna make serious wine here, but we're gonna do it the way we make wine, which is a very simple. It's not about the technique. It's not about heavy ripeness or heavy use of new wood. It's a very gentler, lighter approach, but not light in that you don't need to make a tenderloin tender. It comes tender, and so. Right. I don't need to make a wine heavy. It can have heft and intensity and all this, but what we're not going to do is kind of overdo it, right? And so I want to approach really, frankly, fancy, rarefied fruit, Napa, Cabernet, but really approach it as you would some less, Mourvedre from the Sierra foothills, where we're going to, just sort of make it in a much more free way. I really want to bring that kind of freedom to the winemaking, to even the fanciest, most expensive fruit, and really, I said, money, kind of put your money where your mouth is. If that's really the right way to produce wine, I think it is. And if the better the fruit, the less you have to do to it. Well, we're gonna make Napa wine that way. And I do think at the other end of it, you're gonna hopefully get a wine of exceptional purity, and ultimately deliciousness. I never want to overlook that, but that it will truly be, wow, this wine, it's both rich and yet not heavy. I want to kind of thread that needle, so that it's a real Cabernet and it's a Napa Cab,
right.
And yet it's not like, it's chocolate ice cream, but it's not like triple chocolate palate destroyer, It's like,
right.
No, we just want good chocolate,
right.
It's powerful, So
it's not the.
Just don't leave well enough alone. So that's my goal with this is really let it shine.
Yeah, no, that will be great.
Yeah, we'll see.
How about we wrap things up with some rapid fire questions?
You bet.
During harvest, who is your favorite artist to listen to?
True stories, Jerry Garcia Band. Yeah, if we could put on a little Cats Under the Stars, nice. that will. But the evening work in the winery is going to go much better if we're putting that on. So,
very nice. What is your favorite indulgent food?
Favorite indulgent food? Goodness gracious, I would say Dungeness crab.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how. Maybe that's indulgent, but or scallop, like that, like rich seafood. That thing, you're gonna eat a lot of it. You're gonna probably drink good wine with it. Probably some butter involved. So there you go.
Yeah, and you'd be like, "Oh, I ate too much afterwards."
Yeah. How am I gonna do this again tomorrow? I better say that. No, I kid. We're not gonna binge it.
Your harvest notes, are they digital or handwritten?
Everything's digital. Into the phone. I honestly, nice. True story. I'm a mostly left-handed person, but I think people put the pen in my right hand because I was educated by nuns growing up, and they literally would give me C- for my handwriting, and I used to joke like that was charitable because my handwriting was terrible. I'm convinced I should have written with my left hand. My right hand was never that great. Over time, they taught me how to type in high school. They're like, now we've taught you to type. Now we expect all the papers typed. I'm like, oh, okay, great. But it saved me because I'm a typer. I'm a note taker digitally, and then I have access to it everywhere. So people in the winery think I'm crazy. We have a bunch of younger people who I look at them and think, oh, they're all digital generation people, and they have like fancy composition notebooks, and I'm just into the phone.
Right.
But
no, I think that's the best way to do it.
I think, I mean, in 2017, my harvest guy was like, we have to use a book. I'm like, okay, we'll use a book. And I was like, no, that just didn't work. So
wow.
I'm an old publishing guy. Love books, love print. I'm all digital.
Right. Yeah. Weird. So I'm just out of curiosity, what do you use on your phone to like record all your notes?
Apple Notes, I just type in
Okay.
the notes, just in the
Right.
notes. Yeah. And,
Okay. All right.
But it's searchable or just findable, as I like to say.
Right.
Stuff
Yeah.
is just findable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. If you could choose a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. Without getting into the, ripping the space-time fabric apart, but time travel, definitely. If that's a superpower, it should be.
It should
But,
be. It definitely should be.
It should be. Otherwise, how about X-ray vision so I could identify all the morel mushrooms and chanterelle mushrooms? So you could just look at the forest and it would just glow wherever you should go. That would ruin it, though, because we love to look for these things. But dang it, sometimes you're like, I know they're out here. What if we could just blacklight them? And just, where are they?
Exactly.
So that's my superpower, mushroom finding ability.
That would be awesome. Your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? Totally pandering, but Wonder Woman. I'm sorry, Wonder Woman. She was always awesome. She obviously looked good, but she was absolutely, fantastic. But then when I met my wife, she had a photo of herself dressed up as Wonder Woman. And I was like, okay, you're the one.
We're done. We're good.
That sounds terrible, but Wonder Woman.
No, it's not. No, not bad at all.
She had the transparent jet. I mean, she had the bracelets
and the lasso and.
The last, I mean, it just everything worked too, and she could,
everything
to complain about.
Exactly, and then the final rapid fire is the last book that you read.
The last book that I read is Streets of Laredo by Larry McMurtry, part of the Lonesome Dove quadrilogy. I'm working through those books. They're actually not actually, but. They're fantastic. I'd always heard that McMurtry's a great writer, but I don't know. Perhaps when I was younger, Lonesome Dove came out as like a mini series on TV at a time when I didn't have a TV, or it just was like in that. Probably I was 20 or 25, and I was like, see a television, it's a bunch of garbage, and I just always equated it. I was like, Lonesome Dove, like. The worst wine name, like Whispering Dove or Lonesome Meadow, or it just seemed horrible. And then it took me some years to realize it's actually one of the greats of 20th century American writing. And,
wow!
So I judged a book by its name, if not its cover, and the fact that it was some tawdry sort of miniseries there for a while, but it's really good. So Streets of Laredo.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, highly recommend it. In fact, one of my winery mates, Team Flip Flop mate, Jessica Wilmus of Sunshine Effect Wines and other labels, she told me I have to read Comanche Moon, which I think is the last one in the whole series, and I was going to read it, but I realized I have to read the other ones to get up to it. So I got a book recommendation from Team Flip Flop to read McMurtry, and that's what we're doing. So.
Nice.
It all ties together.
Everything ties together. It's just it's phenomenal how it all does tie together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you would like to mention that I maybe left out or anything? Or?
Nothing that I can think of other than saying, one, it's a pleasure being on your podcast. But I did meet you through your tasting group, and I remember, AJ's happy hour, and I sort of logged on originally, and that was a couple of years ago, and man, there were like 30 people there. Like, you've got a crowd. And they were just locals, So it was really, you're quite a connector in the wine world, organically and now through the pod. This is, I just think it's great. And I mean this sincerely. I was listening, and I think I even mentioned, hey, I heard you on another pod or whatnot. And you're like, we should have you on this. And I'm like, well, that'd be awesome. But I admire what you do, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So today,
well, I really appreciate having you on and you taking the time, and so let me see. Your mailing list is at vincentwines.com.
VincentWineCompany.com
Okay.
is our specific URL. And there are a lot of Vincents in the wine world, so that there's no other Vincent Wine Company. But Vincent being the patron saint of winemakers, it's a common name in the world of wine. So, but yeah, you can sign up for my mailing list, VincentWineCompany.com. And it functions like a club that you don't have to buy anything. But essentially, you get on the list. We write our newsletters throughout the year, but make special offers on pre-release pricing on upcoming wines. So people on the list get the first shot at it. They get the best pricing, maybe the only shot in the case of some wines that sell quick or just there isn't much of. And so for me, it's how I like to buy. I love being on people's lists. I love not having to buy, but I love getting something and then they're like, man, that's cool. I need that. And then I buy.
Right.
And I find that people interact with me much the same way. And so you can be on the list and never purchase and you might learn stuff. You might see fun photos. Who knows? And that's great. Like, no problem. And, but if you want to be a customer, we're ready.
Yeah, no. And, I think a bigger thing to even point out is, the pricing of your wine is crazy affordable. And very approachable, and the quality is like top notch in there as well. So I mean,
thank you. Yeah, I feel inspired by the classic wines of the world, not just the avant-garde kind of natural wine or whatnot. I really feel like our work fits into the world of wine, past and present, and ideally future. But yeah, it's just I feel like the wines have really found an audience and I'm ultimately surprised. If I was a singer, I would say, I love to sing, but I wouldn't necessarily expect anyone to like the music, right? And so here I'm making wine and I can only hope people tolerate it, right? It seems to be going all right. And I feel so lucky because I really wanted to make wine and I was really hoping people would be into it, but you can't make that be. And so I feel so fortunate that people are interested, that hardly a day passes where somebody isn't like, hey, put me on your list, or I want to talk on the pod, or I want to know more about what you do. That's the most flattering, amazing thing. And so I'm here for it.
Keep up the great work. And,
Thanks,
can't
AJ.
wait to see what happens for you in the future.
You bet. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you so much.
All right.